Hey good people, I thought I would be a little judgy today. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time, and that is go to a public park, a cemetery, and look at what the Parks Department has done in terms of their tree choices here in the Salt Lake Valley of Utah, and give you some pros and cons about what I see and what I think. I'm going to start actually not with the tree right behind me, but the flowering cherry over here. It's great. It's beautiful in the springtime, lots of color. I probably would have wrapped it because the sun scald, which these are particularly susceptible to, is pretty significant. This is nothing but dead wood from about here all the way over to here. So while this is a good choice for this setting, I don't think that the right measures were taken. And remember, I'm a huge advocate of wrapping your trees for the first 3 to 5 years to prevent this kind of damage from happening. This is a long time that this has been this way, and while a lot of times the tree will close in around it, this one has not. Now let's go over here and take a look at this pine. This pine is a great choice, evergreen. However, I see a little anomaly here, and that is the co-dominant leader. It really should only have, especially a conifer, should only have one central leader with lateral branches coming off. Unlike this locust, which is going to have branches going kind of every which way when it finally does go off in different directions. That's fine. That's the way the deciduous tree is really designed to be, but not the pine. I do like the wells that they're putting around here so that the maintenance crews are avoiding any contact with the trunk. This crabapple, again, a great choice for spring color, because it's in an area that doesn't get a lot of traffic and probably not a lot of people sitting around picnicking underneath it. This is probably a pretty good choice. Crabapples have a tendency to sucker quite a bit depending on the variety. So I would be keeping the suckers and the water sprouts. They've done a good job of keeping the suckers away, but the water sprouts are pretty thick inside here. I do like the way they've been taking care of some of the trimming in the past. They've cut those branches at just the right spot. And what we're talking about is trimming right in front of that collar so that it can compartmentalize, kind of create this bagel look, if you will, until it closes in completely around that pruning cut. Boy, I like this tree over my right shoulder here. I'm a huge fan of the ginkgo. The ginkgos are a beautiful tree. They'll get quite large. They grow very slow here in the Salt Lake Valley. So this tree is probably just as old as that bigger locust that we saw down there, but it's a long time growing. I probably would have wanted to see the lowest permanent branch like the locust down there, somewhere where it's not going to be so congested and low, because in time, in another 40 years or so, this may be a bit much to have this low to the ground. What else do we have here? Oh, this is a great tree if you're looking for a tree that's not going to get a lot of height to it. It does get pretty wide. This is a thornless hawthorn. It's very dense. It produces a lot of water sprouts, but I really like it if I need a tree to not get a lot of elevation to it. Now, over here further from us is a tree that is persistently being topped in the park because it's growing up into the utility line. If they had planted this tree, that wouldn't be a problem because it just does not get tall. I will say though that you don't want to plant this someplace where there's a lot of foot traffic, even a lot of vehicular traffic, because it produces fruit like crazy. They get all over the sidewalk and the road. They can be quite messy. Now, this is the same crabapple that was planted over there earlier, but this crabapple tells us something that we see quite frequently throughout the park. And if you notice a little bit of a lean here, and if you look at the far one over there, it's another ginkgo, and you see a little bit of a lean there. We do get a persistent south wind here in this part of the valley. And some of the trees, if they don't have an opportunity to get a good strong root system and they're not staked to begin with, they can have that lean to them. Of course, the juniper is always a good choice here in Utah. It's a native tree and it does quite well in our high alkaline soils and low water, although this obviously is getting plenty of water. You can see by the fact that it's the middle of January and it's still green. Looking at these pines over here, I like the placement of these pines and I like the choice and the variety. Because these pines only hold on to about 5 years of needle, they're going to get kind of thin in the interior over time, and by placing them as they have here, this is going to provide some shade for people who are sitting watching the tennis matches or pickleball matches. That's just kind of my review of some of the trees that I've seen here in the park today. Hopefully that review is giving you some ideas, because we have trees that are going to grow quite large, trees that are going to stay fairly small, trees that are going to produce a lot of fruit, trees that particularly need to be wrapped, and trees that are evergreen. So thanks for following along, and remember, click the bell and we'll keep you in touch.